Okay, so hello and welcome to our webinar. I'm happy to see you here and hope the webinar delivers you value. I want to thank Meetbee for helping me organize this session. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to write them on the Q&A tool located in the right menu. And if you want to come and ask them on the stage, please click on the right hand icon below, and the people from Meetbee will address them to me at any point. And I will be happy to answer them to clarify any doubts. And one more thing before we begin, we will upload the webinar to YouTube so you can watch it again and share it with your friends or teammates. So my name is Edward Chechique. I am product designer from Malaga, a wonderful city in the south of Spain. During the last 6 years, I specialize in designing digital products for different software companies and focusing on user experience, user interface, design systems, research, and usability tests. I am always working very close to developers, product managers, and QA teams. Apart from that, I am moderator of design thinking workshops and actively do mentorship to help designer who wants to enter to the user experience field. The purpose of this webinar is to show you why you should take ownership of your work. As a product designer, you create better flows, make beautiful screens, and take care of the interactions. But if you want to grow in the design field, it is not enough. To grow as a designer, you need to do more things. In my opinion, the way to do so is to take ownership of our work. It is not only about how to design better, which you need in any case. I mean, do more in order that you are capable of growing in your professional career. For example, being promoted to higher position is an example of growth career. Before we continue, I would like to align us with the ownership definition to be on the same page. So ownership is the ability to take accountability and responsibility to drive a thing to completion. When you take ownership, you act and take care of anything that may affect its outcome. Taking ownership is for you. I hope you want to continue growing your professional career and eventually working on more significant product. So when you take ownership, act, and take care of everything that may affect its outcome, you grow. When you grow, you feel more driven, inspired, and motivated. Aside from that, when you take ownership and deliver result, people consider you for promotion because they trust you. So this is very helpful. Let's say that more than any other thing, by taking ownership, you increase your self-confidence more than any other aspects. I show a photo here from a parkour sport that I find quite scary, and they assume that they will do it because they are confident enough to jump across from side to another. I believe that people slowly gain more confidence in this sport, which helps them to do more challenging activities. Like them, you can develop your confidence by taking ownership. It will lead you to do more complex tasks and taking more responsibility. So let's look at some example. It is time to look at different real-life situations from our work as designers and see how ownership can affect them. We will review these 3 examples: user story, meetings, and also how to make process better inside the team. To clarify it, let's use these 3 examples to compare 2 designers, John and Mike. John is a designer who never takes ownership of anything. On the other hand, we have Mike, who takes ownership of the things he does. They have the same level of experience, so let's see how they respond differently to the same situations. Let's see how they handle user stories to see how ownership affects the results. Let's assume that we are in a sprint meeting and the product manager adds a new user story to the sprint. As a user, I want to change my passport so that I can keep it secure. The user story includes 2 acceptance criteria. The user needs to confirm the old password. The user needs to confirm the new password twice. Change password is a basic stuff, so it is not difficult to find many resources and example online. So John, the designer who doesn't take ownership, takes the user story and creates this design. John doesn't take time to think about and do exactly what user story describes. 3 inputs, current password, new password, and confirm the password, and also 1 button to submit. Now you can ask, John completed the task exactly like it's described in the user story, including the acceptance criteria. So what not right about this? So John's completed the task exactly as described in the user story, but that is the problem. He didn't think beyond that. From the other part, we have Mike. First, Mike thinks differently about his job. He said to himself, the task is my responsibility, it's not the company's responsibility. He has attitude that he is responsible for providing a great solution to the end user. Before Mike starts to design the user story, he acquires the knowledge that will help him to deliver the great solution. He reads use cases in the internet, so he understands different use cases. When a user changes the password, included edge cases, he changes password in different applications to feel and explore how it works. He wants to know if the company has specific security guidelines to ensure the company's security level. He wants to know if there is he wants to know if there is any essential specification he needs to address. And also he reads product analytics to understand how many times users change the password in the app. After calculating all the data he acquired on working on the user story, he comes with this design to the design review meeting. As you can see, to the design he adds option to show and hide the password, option to generate automatic password, list of checks to guide the user for the password minimum requirements, password secure level. For each element he explained why he designed it in that way, and respond all the team members for their questions. Questions, for example, could be when a developer asks him why the list of minimum requirements for a password is necessary. He claims it aligned to the security policy of the company. In that way, we explain to, and also in that way we explain to the user the password he needs to add, the requirements. Apart from that, he asked the product manager if they can add a feature that automatically send the user an email after changing the password. He explained that it is one of the additional security measures he saw in another applications. In that case, the product manager said that it's a good idea, but there is no time to do it in that moment, but maybe in the future they will add it. Now let's see the outcome achieved by 2 different designers for the same user story, one beside the other. As you can see, Mike and John, one beside the other, the results. So who do you think did better job? On whom you will trust in the team? Or Mike and John? I think there is an obvious answer for that. Let's move to the next example and compare John and Mike in a meeting. For this example, let's assume we have the following members in the team: 1 PM, 4 developers, and 1 person that take care of the QA work. In this meeting, the product manager talks about the team missions and shares their product roadmap. She also explains some user stories that we'll do in the next 3 months. And at the end of the meeting, she shows the user story the team will do in the next sprint. I assume people don't like these meetings because they find them boring and not interesting. So let's take John and Mike. John missed most of the product manager's explanation in the meeting because he was daydreaming and thinking about other things. On the other side, Mike listened to the product manager participated in the meeting and asked questions he felt this should better understanding the product and wants to know the product manager's vision to do better jobs. So the different attitudes of both John and Mike lead to different results in the following situation. Let's assume that this is the roadmap and the PM represents the user story the PM adds for the next sprint. In the user story, the PM wanted to add search option to a table, very common thing. John took the user story and worked on it right away without asking more questions. On the other hand, Mike listened to the meeting, and he remembered that the project manager said they will need to add bulk action functionality to the same table in the next month. Mike realized he could combine these two user stories into a single sprint and finish the design for both. He calculated that the time for the research he would require to do is double if he would have to do it in separate sprint. So he decided it would be a great idea to show it to the product manager to combine two in the same sprint. He explained that combined the user story for the single sprint will save time and finish the design more quickly. He knows that the capacity of the developing is low, so he explained that he will complete both, but the developers can begin working on one user story, and when they finish the developing the first user story, they have the material prepared to work on the second user story. Mike now fully understands what the team does, and he has already started to consider the next step it can take. The product manager realized that he has someone who hears in the meetings and willing to give his best to the team and make things better. So in the future, who will be the person whose idea will consider more, on whom the product manager and the team will trust more? So after see this situation, what do you think? So let's move to the last example and discover how ownership affects the process. So in each team, some topics always can be improved. From my experience in the past, agility, communication, and design and off are the top of the list to be improved for, I guess, every team. So because we speak about designer ownership, I believe it makes sense to provide an example from a part of our work that can cause a lot of friction if we don't do it correctly. So, and of course, it is the design and off, very common task for the designer in the process. So if you look at the big picture, a standard process looks like this, more or less. The design delivers the assets to the development, and once the development is finished, the QA team reviews it, and if everything is fine, we release the version or the product. So let's imagine something isn't work when the designers provide assets to the developers. The developers don't understand the assets the designers share with them, so they don't know what they are supposed to do. So it causes a lot of friction inside the team and reworks for the developers. So let's see how John and Mike react to this situation. John recognizes the problem, but he doesn't attempt to resolve the situation, and the things he do only is complains about the process, complains that the team members do a bad job, waiting for another person to solve the problem. He's very passive and doesn't do anything at all. From the other hand, we have Mike. Mike take action, and what he do is talk with the developers to improve the process, ask friends that have to work in different companies to see how they work, study the process from blogs, YouTube, and books, and organize also retrospective meetings. So at the end, for his suggestions, the team decided in the end that they wanted to hold the retrospective meeting to improve the process. Mike took charge, learned how to run retrospective meetings, and run it inside the team. In the meeting, they talk about how they can improve all the problems they're facing. Mike showed some examples from use cases he read, while other team members also contribute and share their experience from companies they previously worked in. Together, they built a process they believe is the key to solving the issue. After releasing the next version, the team worked much better collaboratively. The team understand how to work together with less friction, and the process they worked on together led them to solve the problem they had. At the end of this release, they agreed to do more frequent retrospective meeting to solve problems inside the team. So we saw Mike that take a completely different approach from John on this situation. John was passive in this situation, and he did actually nothing. On the other hand, Mike was active, took ownership, and pushed the team to the make retrospective meeting to solve the problem. So just think what Mike's team think about him. Actually help him to solve a problem that caused a lot of rework and waste of time. I believe that they are happier with him and have increased the trust because of his behavior. Now, 5 years from now, it's easy to imagine what will happen for these two designers in these 5 years from now. So here I give you to imagine a look of these questions and respond to yourself after you solve these 3 examples. How much they earn, who will be, where they will work, who will be promoted, and who will feel better. I believe that you have a great answer for these questions. During the investigation for this presentation, I found this exact code from Andy Grove, that was a businessman, engineer, author, and pioneer. I think it's a great quote that explains why tech ownership is an important thing. He said that the sad news is nobody owns your career. Your career is literally your business. You own it as a sole proprietor. You have one employee is yourself, and you need to accept ownership of your career, your skills, and the timing your moves. So I feel this quote explains it quite well. In the last part of the webinar, I want to offer some advice at the end to help you feel more confident to take ownership. So let's review these 6 points that from my point of view are important to be aware of them. I believe you find some of them challenging when you take ownership. First, let's see how I work. My way is I get knowledge, act, improve. When you need to take ownership, how you acquire the ownership, responsibility, some words about people, and also about fear. So the first point is the process I use to get some confidence when I wish to take ownership of something. I call it very simple: get knowledge, act, and improve. If there are any challenge, the first thing that I do is gain more knowledge. What I mean here, if I face a challenge, I know that somebody faces it in the very. If I have challenge, I know somebody faced it in the very same challenge before me, so I can find information about it. First, ask on the internet very simple questions like how I can solve this problem. The next step is to read about it in various blog articles and communities, and have a conversation with other people. That's the example that we had in the webinar, the design and off. That doesn't work well in the Mike team. So what Mike did, he asked friends that work in different companies and studied process from blogs, YouTubes, and books. Once you have the knowledge, you act. It is necessary to act because without acting, nothing happened. We can remember from our webinar that after acquiring the knowledge, Mike talks with the developer to improve the process and organize retrospective meetings. So this is super important to act. At this point of the progress, you will begin, and things will get better. Just as was the case with Mike and his team, after retrospective meeting, they started to communicate it better, one with each other. Just let you know that, of course, not all the things we do for the first time will succeed, so we must continue working until improving. So persist and push until things happen. When take ownership. So you can take ownership in every moment that you want to move something forward. In this webinar, you saw that you can take ownership in some different moments. When you are working on user story, doing the meeting, or just come up with new idea for the team. I believe that ownership is not about when, it's about how you feel about your task. If you feel ownership, you will move things forward no matter what. It is more feeling than anything else, and you can take ownership of a big task on a small task. One thing that may help you to take ownership and increase your confidence is to acquire knowledge. I'm saying knowledge, but not only technical knowledge, but also knowledge in different areas. Acquiring knowledge regularly opens up our minds to new methods that will help us to achieve our goals. You can get knowledge from podcasts, articles, YouTube, or wherever you see high quality content. So when you perform something you are new to, you can have point of reference to begin from. I give an example here. One of the things that I like to explore is how to sell. Of course, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a designer, but I see that part of my role is to convince people about my solutions. So I acquired knowledge about selling and it helped me to convince people. Separately, beginner source of knowledge gives the impression that you are a very professional person, which allows people to trust you. So if you have a lot of knowledge, people go to ask you and because they trust you. If you want to push something forward, you need to take responsibility for everything. Taking responsibility involves to taking, let's say for everything, we can call it a 360 degrees responsibility. Ownership cannot work if you take it only 50%. It will be the best if you involve more than 100%. Responsibility can appear in creating meetings, educating the team, ask the team for their opinions, and controlling 100% on the knowledge. So every question that the team asks, you have answer or know how to get it. When you take 360 degrees responsibility, your team will trust you because they will feel you take care of things they're trying to push forward. Let's talk a little bit about people. We work with people. Yes, it may sound funny, but one of the things that we have to be concerned about is how to work well with people around us. So not everyone is comfortable with people, and some of them could feel fear if you want to take ownership. So imagine you want to improve the team processes and the team leader does not allow you because political issues, let's call it. The team leader may be worried that you will take his job. It may sound funny, but actually it can happen. So one of the things you can do is identify who are the people surround you, so we can deal and act with them in such a way that is beneficial to you. Yes, doing this will reduce friction between you and them, and you will be able to do things with more efficiency. So before starting to push and think about the strategy with the people. And the last one, fear. Okay, when we take ownership, it's not simple and often feels scary because of our responsibility. So I'm sure fear is one component of the process, and we need to be mindful of it and deal with it. For example, when we take ownership of new process, we can think about what happens if it does work well, what the team will think of us, what occurs if the team does not agree with us. So it is normal, but you need to be able to overcome fear and act. I believe that if you want to succeed something, you will need to have enough failures, I call it. Sometimes we can succeed the first time, but we need to be aware that is not most of the cases. We will have to fail the first time before reaching to achievement. So do not be afraid to try and make process. So before summarizing this webinar, I want to share this excellent code about ownership for Asher wrote. He said, do your thing, do it upon tenacity, don't be disagreed by through system. You probably already have what they are going to say. Pay no mind to the fears of failure. It is far more valuable than success. Take ownership, take chances, and have fun. And no matter what, don't ever stop doing your thing. So let's summarize this webinar together. So in this webinar, we discussed what is ownership, why we need it, how to take it, and its benefits. We saw example from two designers, Joe and Mike, one of whom takes ownership and one is not. We observed how both approach design when working on user story, what they do when the team have a problem, and how they behave during the meetings. In the end, we look at some points that can help you to take ownership and boost your confidence when we do it. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar today, and I hope it gives you value. If you have any questions, I will be happy to respond, so feel free to write them on the chat. And if you want to come to the stage, click on the hand icon below. So I will be very happy to respond to questions. And now I think we can start with questions. Let me see. Okay, see Marta. Okay, Marta asked a very interesting talk. What can I do if nobody is giving me the option to take ownership? Okay, that's good questions, because actually nobody will give you the option to take ownership. You need to take it by yourself. You need to take things and push it to forward. I mean, actually, if you don't take the ownership, nobody will give it to you. You need to be the person that push it to the, let's say, you need to take it and push it by yourself. It will not happen if you don't do it. As I said, sometimes there is people that it's difficult to manage, and you need to know how to deal with them, because sometimes they will feel sometimes they can feel that you go to their point, to take them position. So you need to know how to deal with them. But actually, the most important thing here is to take ownership by yourself, because nobody will give it to you. Okay, I see Juan also had a questions. Hey Ed, any advice when dealing with different people? That is a good question. And when as I explained in the webinar, it is necessary to understand who with the people we talk, and start to analyze how to act with them, because some people are more strict, some less, some have more opinions, some less, some also have a higher position in the team or in the company. So actually to study each one of them, how to go with him. So if you see a person that wants to take ownership, he wants take a decision about everything, start to involve him for the first moment, so he will feel that he take the decision. But actually, if we do it very close to him, it will be easier. I mean, at the end, it will necessary at the end to know with who we talk. If we know it, it will be easier to deal with the people. And yes, from my point of view, it's maybe the most difficult part, because every person is on thinking, on feeling, and actually this is the one of the most important things that we need to do, is to understand how to act with people, to study them, let's say. I hope it's a response to your questions. Thank you very much. So let's see if we have more questions. Let's see. Yes, another questions. Okay. Again? What do I if I fear to take ownership? Marta also asked. So I will say yes, it can be fear to take ownership. What I will do in that case, start with simple things, with very small things. So I mean, don't take big in the ownership or something. You can make small changes in the team. Let's say that we use some types of documentation that you are not happy with, or you feel that the team not happy with. So just take this very small thing, start with there, and try to convince the people to change. But you need also to be the person that take care of all the process. So I mean, in that way you gain confidence. So start small, not so big, with things that it's not the most important thing. But when you see that you take ownership, move small things, you will gain more and more confidence, and you can do more big things. So yes, fear exists, but start small, get confidence, and do things more, big things. Let's see if we have more stuff. Thank you very much. So I see there is no more questions. Okay, so actually I will, thanks Johan, thank you. So actually I will say to you, thank you very much for your time watching this webinar. We also upload it to YouTube, so it will be always in the internet, and feel free to share it with the people that you think can help them. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and again, thank you. Bye bye.